Ulonga tabati yada to ye ko madaifa. Inu to ye ko jeun. Ulon fi bipa. Ọba tala, ọba takuntakun. Ṣàngó Èṣù, Ògún Ọya Ọ̀ṣun. Ìwọ ló ń bọ̀ nílé. Kí ni ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o? Ó jẹ́ lọ jára.
Alafia, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I am your host, Orisha Bami, and today we have on the legend, the icon, the prolific historian, Professor Kaba Kamene. Peace and blessings, Professor Kaba. How you doing today?
Peace and blessings and hotep to you, my brother. Ngemi. Obemi, please. Good to see you again, brother. Good to be back on your show. Looking forward to this conversation. It was so nice the last time. Now we got to do it twice.
Yes, sir. We got to make it do what it do, man. I see the tribe coming in. Yeah, but with that, Professor Kaba, spiritual ties, and then tying the connection from the Orishas to the Neters to Haitian Vodun to Benin Vodun to Santeria, and then us here in the diaspora and Hoodoo. Like, how does all of this tie together in regards to us as a people when it comes to practicing our indigenous spiritual systems?
What I find very interesting about all of the conversations that we had, and part of the reason why I wrote the book Spirituality Before Religions was for me, because I've been in search. Like I said, I grew up Roman Catholic, deeply spiritual, searching for spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't find it. And I just didn't understand why I didn't find it. And as I matured, I came to the conclusion it was because I was looking for the creator in religions, not realizing that the creator is in spirituality, and that all religions are fueled, energized, inspired, initiated by spirituality. And so, as I've grown, just for our conversation this evening, I look at particularly the Orisha Ifa. I look at the Neteru of Kush Kemet. And here's a story that I often tell people about my own development and why I spend my time with our children in terms of educating them and being with them, as I've done for the past, now going on 48 years. I started teaching in 1977. So I'm going on, as of this August, it'll be 48 years that I've been teaching children. I've taught every grade, I've taught every subject. I've taught college for 14 years. So I've been with our young people on many of their different phases through their development and their growth. And I always looked at my students, as I do with all human beings, no matter what your cultural background is. I look at you as a spiritual being having a human experience. Like I say, the creator, we are the creator having a human experience. And so what ties me, if I can use the concept of the Twa Mbuti, who called the creator Iliana, Iliana. Iliana is the divine vital force in all things that exist. As I do my hands like this, okay, my hands are the matter. My hands are physical, they're flesh. But what makes me do this with them, you can't see. That is Iliana. That is the spirit. It is what motivates, activates, energizes matter in whatever form it may be. The creator is in a volcano. When a volcano erupts, the mountain does something, but what makes it do it? That's Iliana. Cats, dogs that bark, that run, that jump, Ileana. So that Ileana, from its very beginning, Kush Kemet would have called it the Ka, the Ka. Because what made the volcano erupt, what makes dogs and cats run and cattle do what they do, what makes human beings, what makes my hand, it's all linked to the same force. It's all connected. And so the Neteru, which are like the Orishas, are basically emanations or expressions of the Creator, because the Creator cannot be seen, because it is what motivates and energizes it. However, the Ka, the Spirit, is in everything, and that everything in nature has been given special forces to represent the Creator. Like everything is the ambassador, the representative of the Creator. This is my study. This is what I've come to. This is my thoughts. And so whatever you're looking at, young person once asked me, very interesting, what's the difference between the spirit and the soul? Because I think sometimes we get it confused. The spirit in Kaba, the Ka in me, is the Ka in you, brother Orisha Obeng. Same thing. Exact same thing. The energy, the spirit, just as you nod your head, I nod my head, same spirit.
Mm-hmm.
However, once the physical body is endowed with the spirit, it expresses itself in its own unique way.
Mm.
And that becomes the soul.
Mm.
So my soul, my Ba, is not the same as your Ba, because you're Orisha Obemi and I'm Kaba Hiawatha. But the Ka in us is the same.
Mm.
I think of it like a vast ocean. And the vast ocean is made up of, cannot be counted, numbers of drops of water. So the question becomes, what part of the ocean isn't a drop of water?
Mm.
And what part of the drop of water is not endowed with the ocean?
Mm.
And so right now we're in a great ocean in the universe. And you're a drop of water, and I'm a drop of water. People that are listening to the program, all of them are drops of water. And the way in which I've studied our ancestral understanding, particularly as I've dealt with spirituality before religions, was to look at and study and attempt to analyze critically what our ancestors were talking about when they were talking about the body, the jet, the mind, the soul, and the spirit. What is the difference? I had a student, in the Board of Ed, when a child has a birthday, many times they have a party.
Mm-hmm.
And the family brings in a cake or cupcakes and ice cream and gifts for the children in the class, and they
Yeah,
celebrate the child's birthday
Yep.
in the classroom. And I've had countless parties throughout my career. Even in college, they do that. And as most folk know, that Jehovah Witness does not celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't celebrate holidays.
No, they don't celebrate holiday. And so the children who belong to the Jehovah Witness faith system have to be excused from the classroom.
Mm.
And normally they will go to the principal's office, or they'll go to their favorite teacher's room where they can sit and participate, but they cannot be part of the party.
I never knew that.
Oh, yeah. They don't celebrate Christmas. They don't celebrate. You know what was interesting? I'm going to stick a pin there for a minute. What was interesting is I knew a brother. I used to take the bus to work before I had a car.
Mm-hmm.
This is years ago. I used to take the bus to and from work, and there was a brother that normally our schedules met. He didn't teach. He was into other things. He was a younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I got into conversations, very interesting conversation. He was on the cusp of becoming conscious,
Mm-hmm.
but he grew up in a family that was Jehovah's Witness. Very intelligent brother. I mean, just really very intelligent and very smart. Two different things, smart and intelligent.
Right.
And he and I used to get into conversations. And he shared with me the guide of Jehovah's Witness.
Mm-hmm.
It's the directions, and it's like the curriculum for Jehovah's Witness.
Are you talking about the Watchtower?
Well, that's like the newspaper.
Yeah, like the Nation of Islam has with the Final Call.
Exactly. And before
I
that,
got
it
you.
was Muhammad Speaks.
Gotcha.
But this was not that.
I got you.
This was the curriculum that Jehovah's Witness, when they stand outside the subway or when they're walking in the streets selling you the Watchtower,
Mm-hmm.
what they are taught to understand about their spiritual system. And one time he said, I'm going to get you one. And next time I saw him, he went in his bag, he took this out, and I read it.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. They tell you, expect people to reject you.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
And the more you speak on behalf of this spiritual system, the closer to the creator you will get.
Mm.
And so when you can see their spirit and their energy in what they believe in, they've been taught, if not trained, to understand. That we say, no, thank you. No, thank you. They still go on. And sometimes they will say, well, you know something? Thank you very much for your time that you've given me. May God bless you. Have a great day. See you next time. So they are taught how to do this. And the reason why I say this is because part of it talked about, and a student explained this to me. And this was in the early days of my education. So when the student explained this to me, I had not yet read that pamphlet on how to be a good Jehovah's Witness. And one of the children in the class, when we talked about having a birthday party, and the young lady raised her hand and said, well, I can't come to the party because I'm Jehovah's Witness. One of the students asked her, well, why not? And she, in the best way she could, explained why she could not celebrate. But somebody else in the class said, but you know, I heard my mother was saying about you all could be dying and you don't get blood transfusion. And that's where the young lady explained something that when I went back into the book itself, I began to realize Jehovah's Witness believes that your soul resides in your blood. And that if you should have a blood transfusion, then you are incorporating other people's soul into your soul. And that's why they would be willing to die, even to have their loved one die, before they have a blood transfusion. Because they believe, and it's their right to believe, that your soul resides in your blood. But you know what's interesting? From a scientific perspective, that's true.
Yeah, that's deep.
Because what's
That's
the first thing people do if you're sick or if you go to a doctor for a checkup? What's the first thing they do?
They do a blood test.
They give you a blood test.
Yeah. That's real deep.
So, and why do they give you a blood test? Because it's in your blood that everything about you they can find out.
Yes. Yep.
And so from a scientific perspective, that's accurate. But that don't mean I don't want other people's soul in me if I'm going to live. So Give me a blood transfusion. You know what I'm saying? But that's their right to believe what they want to believe. But it is true scientifically.
Yeah.
The other very interesting thing is that even though we all have independent souls, in many ways we carry the souls of our ancestors in our blood.
Sure.
And so it's important that we understand that, first of all, whether you don't want other people's soul in your blood, what makes you who you are is all of your ancestors' blood. And that is why when something occurs, if they want to find out something about another person, when they take the blood test, they'll see if you're compatible. And that is why you have O blood and you have A minus, A plus, B minus, B plus. They're different variants of blood. But if you're O, you got everybody under control. A lot of people are B plus.
Right.
Or whatever it is. And what I'm telling people that are listening right now, I pray you know your blood type.
Yeah, that's real.
That's something you should walk with like an ID card. Know your blood type. Because in knowing your blood type, if Creator forbid you should be in a situation that you need a blood transfusion, time is so very important in you being able to get that blood. If they got to check you first, that's going to take time. But if you know, oh, I'm B plus, I'm A minus. If you know your blood type, then that quickens the amount of time it takes for them to get you the proper donor and get the proper blood into your system. And so when you look at these concepts and you look at the idea of the soul is not just a spiritual aspect, it is also scientific.
Sure.
Your blood is what carries the oxygen throughout your body. It's what nourishes you. And it's also what can cause calamity with you. And so it becomes important that we understand this and we understand the ties that bind us. So going back to your original question, what I think is important for us to understand is that there are large components of the Congolese community in us. Many of us believe that we are West African, predominantly. But there's also much blood as it relates to the Congolese or the original people, the Khoisan and the Twa and Mbuti people of Central and Southern Africa. As it relates to Americans in particular, it is believed that the very first Africans that came to this part of the world, Dr. David Imhotep told me the last time I spoke to him, he's joined the Ancestors, but my last conversation with him is that his first book took us back 100,000 years in this hemisphere. His revised third edition book pushed the time back to 120,000 years ago, that the first Africans came to this part of the world. And they did not come via the northwest, they came from Africa. And many of them came on the Benguela current of southern Africa into the mouth of the Amazon River. So the first human beings that populated this area were Africans who are in Brazil. Okay, and that's where you have Candomblé.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, and that's coming from the Khoisan, the Twa and Mbuti people. When you deal with the other wave of Africans that came during the enslavement time, many of them came from West Africa. But then in the newest book that I'm writing now, I have a segment on the 6 migrations of Africans from the east to the west, which shows the vital relationship between West Africa and East Africa. When the Indo-European onslaught occurred, many Africans left the east and went to the west. But even before that, there was Africans that traveled east, because remember, at one time, the Sahara was not a desert.
I was just having that. I promise I was just having that conversation like maybe 2 days ago. Literally, like 2 days ago, I was just having that conversation.
My brother Obemi, I have an entire section in the book that talks about this. There were lively river systems.
Yep.
And you see, when you study geology, you know that over time, the waters receded.
Mm-hmm.
But at one time, the Happy River of East Africa was connected to the Limpopo and Orange River of South Africa, was connected to the Niger River, was connected to the Congo River. And in the north, there was a huge river that was called the Tamanrasset River. And it is in the desiccation or the creation of the desert of North Africa about 5,000 BC, about 7,000 years ago, that created what we call Sahara. And the evidence of it is in West Africa. Because the dunes and the sands of East Africa, of the eastern part of the Sahara, you can find off the coast in a place called Cap Timiris, off the coast of southern Mauritania in West Africa. This is why we got to study.
Yeah.
I tell people we have to study this.
Oh yeah, that's deep.
There's work that we have to do, but over time the rivers receded, and so they went down, so that then the rivers became separated. But for hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years, Africans were able to get on the river on the east side of the continent and find themselves on the west side, the north side, the south side, or in the central part of Africa. And so when Africans first came to America, they brought faith systems with them. And then when West Africans came during the enslavement process against their will, what is so profound about what we face now is the fact that one of the greatest impacts that has touched Africans in America and in the Caribbean was Africans stolen from Nigeria. Because they brought with them an intact religion. And in that, it's called syncretism. Syncretism. Family, I'm a teacher, so I got to spell. If you want to do the research, I want to spell these words for you so you can look them up, because I don't want you to believe a word I say. I just want you to think.
I know that's right.
That's my thing. I don't care if people believe. I'm not here to be believed. I know the research I've done. I know the books I've read. I know the people I've been exposed to. And so in coming to this part of the world, in syncretism is when you superimpose a foreign doctrine over your foundational belief system. Or you superimpose your foundational belief system over a particular organized, in this case, religion. And so when we were syncretically connecting our traditional belief system, Christianity, if we spoke Spanish, we call it Santeria. If we spoke French, we call it Vodun. But remember Louisiana and the French that were here. In that connection with Haiti, Africans in the United States, particularly in the French territories, created Hoodoo, which was matched with Voodoo or Voodoo. In Brazil, it was called Candomblé. And in the English-speaking part of the United States, with that connection with Haiti, it was translated into English, and Hoodoo grew And whether they like it or not, it's deeply steeped in the Black Baptist Church. Everything you see that minister doing is all African. No matter, he may be preaching about Christ, but he's talking about Olodumare. He might be preaching about Saint Elizabeth or Saint this or Saint that, but he's talking about Shango. Okay? He's talking about Oshun, Jemaja. Okay? And so this connection is there with us. I'm going to tell you a story. When I was a young man growing up, grew up in a project in Midtown Manhattan, Amsterdam houses. And community had many different cultures. And one of the cultures, many of my neighbors and my friends, our friends, family friends, were from Puerto Rico. And my friend that I really hung out with, when I used to go over to his house, Orlando was his name. I used to go over to his house and, I would eat, Senora would ask me, Esqui, quiere comer? Do you want to eat? I'd eat, in their house, and he ate in my house. And then I would go to their house, but it was different. They would be having a ceremony. And the house that I went into when they were having ceremony did not look like the house that I would go in when I would just be hanging out with my friend Orlando. They had statues of black folk that they put up. They had pictures of black folk. I'm speaking about they practiced Santeria. And then come the Babalao. Now, mind you, I'm young. I'm like 7, 8, 9, 10 in those years. So the point that I'm making that I think is most important from and man, they love me because, being young and man, they start playing them drums and I get up and start dancing and, I was just all up in it, man. That drum was moving me. I was Roman Catholic now.
They was having a whole bimbe up in there.
Oh man, we was having fiesta, but
yes, sir.
Oh man, it was, and I remember the atmosphere, and I also remember many of the people that were in the party. You would not necessarily think that they was deeply steeped in the African tradition. They did not look phenotypically.
Oh yeah,
like you or I. Their hair texture was not like a person of African descent.
Right.
But they were African through and through. Okay, so this is why when I listen to this arguing, going back and forth, man, I'm not letting them separate us. We're just one family, and that's just the way it is. Okay.
That's fact.
But the point that I'm making to you is that my introduction to Africa was not historical. It was spiritual. Because when they be honoring and be dressed in certain colors, see, remember, I'm a child. So in my child's mind, I'm not taking all that. I'm still trying to figure out where that statue came from because I wasn't there the day before yesterday when I was hanging out with Orlando eating your arroz con pollo in your house.
They done brought the shrine in, man.
They brought the shrine in and they created their altar, brother. And we was having a good time. So my introduction to Africa was not through history. I didn't study. Years later, when I was like 12 and a half and 14 and 15, with my introduction to Professor John Henrik Clarke, then it got historical.
Yes, sir.
But I was up there with those Orishas. And then we had neighbors that were from Haiti that lived up on the top floor. And then I was exposed to Vodun. And so my exposure to this spirituality, to this soul science, was from a child. still deeply steeped in the church because I would become a choir boy, an altar boy, and believe it or not, I want to be a priest.
Hey.
That's how I grew up.
If the shoe fits.
Okay. When I got 14, Dr. Clarke, he knocked that out of me. He knocked that out of me, boy. His conversations, and I always tell the story about, his impact and how I was in seminary and I was down in the basement of the church and I came upon a book that talked about this sect of priests that protected this religious statue, Our Lady of Cheslakova. I'm sure I've told this story before, and I'm sure I've told this story to folk like you, but just in case.
I don't know if I heard this one, but I want to hear it because I don't know if I heard this one from you. And then I got a couple of questions from the tribe whenever we get through with this, because I want to hear this. I don't think I've heard this one.
Okay. Well, I was in seminary, high school seminary.
Okay.
Wanted to be a priest. Okay. And I came upon this book that talked about this sect of priests that was protecting this religious icon statue in Poland. And it was called Our Lady of Cheslakova. But in parentheses, it said Black Madonna and Child. Now, keep in mind now, with my days as a young man in Orlando's house, celebrating Santeria, I saw black statues. But you negate things in your head as a young person. It doesn't mean anything. You push it to the side because when I went to church, I ain't saw nothing but people of European descent.
Yes.
And so it's funny how the control of the mind, particularly with a child, will hold you someplace. But then when it said Our Lady of Cheslakova, didn't have no pictures. I was 14. I was in high school, sophomore in high school. I called Dr. Clarke. And I said, Dr. Clarke, I just want to ask you, I came upon a book that was talking about this religious statue in Poland, and it was called Our Lady of Cheslakova, but in parentheses it said Black Madonna and Child. And I said, do you know about this? And Dr. Clarke said, Booker T, okay. He said, when you get a chance, call me, come up to my house, and we'll talk. So I went, and he gave me a mimeograph copy. Now, mind you, I'm talking mimeograph, not Xerox. I'm talking about that purple ink. He gave me a mimeograph copy of a short story he wrote titled The Boy Who Painted Christ Black. I got on the bus, because this is in Harlem. I'm living on 66th Street, and he's on 130-something Street. I got on the bus to go home, and I read it. By the time I got off the bus, I had read it once. I read it again, read it over 2 weeks. Didn't go back to the church. I read it. And when I thought I was ready, I called Dr. Clarke. I said, Dr. Clarke, I've read it however many times I told him. And I said, I'm wondering, can we talk? And he said, sure. We arranged the time. I went up. I sat down. Dr. Clarke, one of the things about Dr. Clarke that made him such a masterful human being first, educator second, African history teacher third, was that he was able to talk to me at 14 in a way that he didn't hurt my feelings because he knew how deep I was in the church.
Oh, yeah.
But now that I look back, I remember parts of the conversation. And I often say that Dr. Clarke would put a velvet glove on and he'd hit you. But what you didn't know, that under the velvet glove was an iron fist. I mean, when he hit you with knowledge and wisdom, you could say he knocked your block off.
Yes, sir.
And he knocked the block off me. The block of African spirituality. He unblocked me. I tell you, I was in a state of suspended animation because I was so deeply spiritual in the Catholic Church. Man, I had gone from kindergarten through 8th grade Catholic school. I was choir boy, altar boy. I also I spoke Latin better than the priest did. In fact, sometimes the priest would come to me to ask me to correct their pronunciation of certain words in the mass.
I'm not surprised either.
That's how deep I was into this. Because I'm Scorpio, so when I get into something, like James Brown say, I want to get down, but in order for me to get down, I got to get in deep.
Yes, sir.
Funky deep.
And we're trying to go deep again tonight. Yes, sir.
And that's what I did. I was funky deep into Roman Catholicism. But remember what I experienced as a child in my friend Orlando's house. And now I'm in the basement of the church reading this book about the Black Madonna and Child. And then I'm reading this short story, The Boy Who Painted Christ Black. And then I'm exposed to Dr. Clarke, telling me things about my belief system and about Africa and about how when somebody can take your God from you and make you worship their God. At the same time, I'm growing up during the civil rights movement. Okay? At the same time, believe it or not, I am already part of the Black Panther Party. Because I was a cub in the Black Panther Party. You ain't going to see me with a gun in my hand, but you will see me sitting at a table learning Kiswahili from the elder brothers and sisters who are the Black Panther members.
Yes, sir.
And so, with all of these different things coming together, with all of these ideas coming together as a young man, this is why I wanted to teach young people. Because I know what it is to be young and Black and be misinformed. I know what it's like to live a lie as if it were the truth. And then somebody with a velvet glove comes and knocks your block off.
Listen, look, that's what you be doing here on the channel, man. Like, we still, from the very first time you came on this one, I don't remember what month it was, but this is the 3rd time I believe you've been on. But I swear to God, I think I just got like 3 or 4 comments today about from the first episode that you was on, because the impact of, there's a lot of different layers of people who support this channel. You have some people who are heavy, deep into consciousness, the hidden colors fanatics like myself, and people who've been studying this work for a while. Then you have people who are brand new, who's just literally just getting exposed to consciousness, or just getting exposed to the Kemetic culture, to the Ifa Isese culture. So it's a lot of mixed, varying degrees of where people are in regards to their journey. But I wish I remember the brother's name, but one brother stood out recently because he was asking a question in regards to, he was just coming into consciousness, and he just had his DNA, I think like I don't know if it was 23andMe, but whatever, one of the ancestral DNA trackers or whatever, he got it back, and he was finding out that like Yoruba was part of his his cultural or genetic makeup. So he was like, the channel kind of reached him like in divine time where they met, like between him finding his genealogy history on top of kind of just getting exposed to the spirituality aspects of it. So he was like, the timing was, it was perfect for him. But it's like he wanted to learn more about Ifa and Isese, and I kind of pointed to him that we have a lot of that on the channel, but it's kind of sprinkled through. But one of the things that I love when you and Professor Small comes on is that y'all have a very, very vast, deep knowledge of like all the cultural aspects of our, spiritual history, or just history as a whole. And it comes back to the teachers like Dr. Clarke and Dr. Jackson and Sertima, Ivan Van Sertima, and Shikanta Diop. And those are so many different names and so many different masters that a lot of us don't know about. And so I love having these conversations because y'all are coming from the vast, limitless amounts of resources worth of information and knowledge and intelligence to break it down for all of us in so many different levels and so many different layers. So one of the things I was thinking about, we did have a couple questions, but I wanted to ask a question too, is knowing that I know we were here before Columbus and all that foolishness based off of Ivan Van Sertima's work, they came before Columbus, but How does, and have you heard of like the connection with a lot of the Kemetic like statues and monuments, and it's all kind of Kemetic history and a lot of like treasures being found in the Grand Canyon, right here in America. Is that something that you're familiar with, or that you've done any research on, Professor Kaba? Because I know for a fact I've seen multiple different like videos and documentaries, all that, where they're pulling out different Kemetic sculptures and all kind of history of Kemetic, pretty much legacy being here stateside in America in the Grand Canyon. Is that something that you have any type of knowledge or awareness of, Professor Kaba?
There's a great deal more research that has to be done.
Okay, got you.
But the key is we get connected with Kemet, Kush Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it is that, like Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop teaches us, there is a cultural unity in Black Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever we go, keep in mind the Moors were here.
Yes.
And the Moors were the keeper of the ancient knowledge and wisdom of many different facets, the trade that was going. See, we are living under the illusion that everything happened post 1492.
Mm.
And we don't know that we have had people that have been in this area of the world for hundreds of thousands of years.
Mm.
And so my thing is, study the essence of what you're looking at. And understand that there's much more work to be done to become more accurate with what we're doing. That's what becomes very important to me, is to keep yourself open. Just like Dr. David Imhotep, the author of The First Americans Were Africans, was a friend of mine. Great scholar. We spoke a lot. He was very much into health and nutrition. He was Muhammad Ali's nutritionist in his camp. Muhammad Ali used to call him Mr. Juice, the juice man. David Imhotep. Brilliant scholar. Phenomenal football player. Phenomenal athlete. And Dr. Imhotep gave great praise to Dr. Ivan van Sertima for everything that he had done. I went to Mexico with Dr. Van Sertima in 1984. I was very familiar with Dr. Van Sertima, and I worked with him even here in Manhattan when I used to bring him in to do presentations at the Caribbean Cultural Center in New York. But Dr. Imhotep, as fervent a student as he was of Dr. Van Sertima, he brought Dr. Van Sertima's up to the next level. He brought that information up to the next level. When you read They Came Before Columbus, or if you read the Early Presence in Ancient America, Volume 1 and 2, you'll see the information by some of the greatest scholars that knew of this information. But what we don't even do is put the words together as it relates to when you go out west. Just look at the term Mormon. More man. They sat at the feet of these black people, these Moors, and studied their history, their spirituality, and created the Mormon religion. That's why they were outcasts in Christianity. That's why they call Mormon. We don't put those concepts together. And eventually they were chased out of town, and basically you find them in Utah and places like that.
Mm.
So that when you go to the Grand Canyon, and when you go, I did a autumnal equinox celebration ceremony on top of Monk's Mound.
Yeah. Listen, I was going to ask you, I was going to go into the mounds, because I don't know how many of us know that we have pyramidal and mound structures here in the United States as well. And you talk about Monk Mound in Cahokia, right, Illinois?
Yeah, in Cahokia, which is in the Y of the Mississippi River.
Yes, sir.
One side becomes the Ohio River, the other one continues being the Mississippi River.
That's deep. I promise I was gonna ask you that question too.
Yeah. And Cahokia is in the middle of the Y.
Yeah.
And you see, when we study Native American history, the reason why we don't know all this good information is because we get caught up in the European introduction
Yes,
to
sir.
the indigenous people, which is on the East Coast. So we do that 13 colony thing. But if you want to understand the indigenous people, if you want to understand Native American people, you got to go to the Mississippi River, because the Mississippi River was to indigenous people in America what the Hopi and what the Congo River was to Africa.
Yes, sir.
Straight up to Louisiana with a delta, except it's reversed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the river travels north to south because its origins is north of the equator.
Mm-hmm.
But the origins of Hopi is south of the equator. And so that's why the Hopi River flows from south to north. We go down south. They go up south and down north.
That's deep. And that's the only river in the world that travels the opposite way. Is that correct?
Well, any river that is south of the equator will travel that way. But also keep in mind, in Florida, in a very interesting way, the St. James River flows from south to north.
Wow. I'm about to look that up. I never heard of that river before.
St. James River in Florida. I've been on it.
Wow.
And I felt like I was on Hopi like I was this summer.
Wow.
See, this is why, brother Obemi, we have to study.
Yeah, that's real.
And we have to keep ourselves open. We are in very interesting times.
Oh yeah. Look, we got a whole 40 minutes in before I was gonna bring that topic up. But yeah, we
And I'm telling you right now, let me just tell you what one of my heroes said. One of my heroes said, have no fear for atomic energy. Because none of them can stop the time.
I know that's right. Yes, sir.
See, we got to understand, and I always ask people, do you think Harriet Tubman worried about who the president was when she was on the Underground Railroad?
No, sir.
Why are we getting twisted? We've been through worse. Much worse.
Yes, sir.
We've been through times you and I couldn't talk like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We couldn't even communicate like this.
Them same drums you was talking about earlier, we weren't allowed to play those drums.
That's right. Because they knew that's the heartbeat of the community.
Yes, sir.
See, this is who we are as a people. And when I was on top of Monk's Mound, the other thing to realize, and this is the other thing that we have to see, is that what are the mounds? Okay. Where did the mounds come from? With the early human beings, they knew that there were mounds that the earth had created. They were hills. They called it Ptah. Okay. Olu, which is the derivative of a mountain. Okay. When you look at the role that the Yoruba, the West African, played with the relationship of sports in Africa in competition, the very name of what we today call that sport came from Nigeria. I got a section in the book on that. Olu means the mountaintop. Then you have Mount Olympus. And then you have the Olympics.
That's deep, man. I remember the last time we spoke, that's the first time I had ever heard that the Mount Olympus came from Olodumare. And what made since that conversation, it made it even more deep to me, because now when you're talking about, okay, well, let's just say if that mountain was, you say Mount Olympus, and that's kind of tied to Olodumare, right? So then now I started thinking about, after that conversation, the creation story. So now from the Ifa or Orisha creation story, when Oludumare gave the Orumule, the Orishas, the authority or the green light to come to the planet Earth, Ogun was the one who forged the gold chain for the Orishas to descend down, down to the planet Earth, to Onile. But then Obatala, who is the molder, the creator of life and all things that has to do with, humanity, like, he is also attributed to the mountaintop. So I started thinking, like, damn, that's deep, because you got Ogun, you got Mount Olympus, which is Oludumare, then you have Obatala, who is, the creator God. It's a lot of deep things that kind of came to my mind, like, that I had to unpack after you said that. But now that I hear you saying it again, I'm like, damn, that's deep. Like, that's deep. But then you look at, we talking about mountains. So are mounds like mini versions of mountains?
Well, that's the concept. Think of the early human beings, okay, and what they were attempting to do as it relates to the world that they were living in. When you come upon mounds, they're called ring tumuli. Tumuli. Family, don't believe a word I say. Google
How you spell it again? How you spell it again?
Tumulus. Tumulus.
Okay.
And the plural is tumuli. Tumuli. These are earth-created mounds. Okay? From all different sizes, but they were earth-created mounds. Now, think about the early human. One of the first things that you're trying to do is you are trying to collect a series of thoughts and ideas and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that is going to allow you to be able to live your life. And one of the first things that happens is the law of correspondence, which is as above, so below. And in so doing, what you begin to realize is that ring tumuli, or the tumulus, if it's one, what you begin to notice is that, and this happened in Africa first, what they began to realize is that according to the shadow cast by that tumuli or tumulus determines the time of day and also the season. And so as the human began to perfect his and her knowledge and wisdom of looking at the shadow of where the shadow was cast according to the sun, they could tell what time it was during the day. And according to how long they watched it over years and years, they were able to understand what season they were experiencing, which would allow them to understand what plants needed to be cultivated, and that they ate better. And when they ate better, they thought better. When they thought better, they ate better. And pretty soon, this concept of the tumulus, what our ancestors said is, we ain't going to wait just to see where we can find these tumuli. We are going to build our own. And that's where the pyramids came from. Because according to where the shadow is cast in those great pyramids is going to tell you the season that you're experiencing. It's going to tell you the time of day when you do the little one. It's going to tell you the time of day. And when you look at the early watches, or if you want to call them what, but the early things that we put in the earth that stood up like this, according to, well, let's just say we're going to go to the beach. Yeah, see, y'all in Florida, so you know what I'm talking about, because y'all are going to the beach all the time. Okay, now somebody need to get some pigmentation, so they want to get a tan. So what they do is that they want to be in direct alignment with the sun all day long. So what do? When the sun is coming up on the east, everybody's body is facing the east. But as you go through your day and the sun is moving, you begin to move your body according to the way the sun is. And the way you know that you're in direct alignment with the sun is that your body don't cast no shadow. When you think of the what the early human family, see, they're not where we are right now.
Mm-mm.
They are, this is the dawn of humankind's knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But because of them, we now are in this position. Because we are on their shoulders, having benefited from their beginnings of being a genius in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could literally look at a person on a beach and you could tell what time it was.
Wow.
According to the way their body was aligned, because they don't want the sun to cast a shadow on either side. So when you're in direct alignment with the sun on the beach, you don't cast a shadow. Now, if somebody is saying, okay, am I in direct alignment with the sun? They look to their left and they say, okay, no, I better move over a little bit because I'm casting a shadow.
Mm.
You see? So that the early family, when you're looking at mounds, they began to, and you see, they didn't have to build pyramids. Because the mounds would tell you everything you needed to know also. But they did build pyramids.
Mm.
I've been to Mexico City to the pyramid of the sun and the pyramid of the moon.
Mm. And was it Teotihuacan?
Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan. Yeah, that's
Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan.
I can't wait to go to both of them.
I've been to Palenque,
Mm.
where they have the pyramid. On top of the pyramid, they have a tomb, and standing up out of the tomb is a tekenu or an obelisk. They got ankhs all over Mexico. When I went to Palenque, the guy told us, Victor, he told us there are over 200 temples around this particular temple.
Mm.
I saw the same thing at Teotihuacan.
Mm.
There were altars all over. And that's the same thing in Egypt. See, the only thing that's that we really do see is some of the major, the Red Pyramid, the Bent Pyramid. We see the three major pyramids, Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure. We see the smaller ones. But we don't understand there were over 80 pyramids in this, and it was a walled-in city. You know, it's like if something, creator forbid, horrible happened in New York, and the only thing that was standing was the Empire State Building. And everybody thought that the only thing that was in that neighborhood was the Empire State Building, not realizing all the other buildings that were there.
Wow. That
was a pyramid city. It was walled in too. There was a wall around it.
Mm.
And so when you're looking at the mounds, when I was up on the mound, on the autumnal equinox, the sun was directly over my head the whole time. The sun on the autumnal equinox, when the days and nights are equal, that was passing over my head as I was performing the ceremony.
Mm.
When we went to Kush Kemet this June, we were there specifically for the summer solstice, when the sun stood still. And right when the sun rose, it shined right into the temple door, right into the Holy of the Holies. This past winter was the winter solstice. And in the winter solstice, you see that you can understand that the winter solstice, you have to go to the temples in Karnak, where when the sun rises, it goes right into the temple. It was built with that perfection and was built for astronomical reasons. As above, so below. So this is where the knowledge and the wisdom is coming from as a people. And out of this science, we built a spiritual system. And we honored water. We honored earth. We honored the gift of sight in the bird, the gift of smell and discrimination in the dog. Okay, the ability to be conscious in the hare, the rabbit. Okay, agility in the cat. We didn't worship the cat. We didn't worship Boston. We worship the fact that a cat can fall from a second-story building, land on his feet, and
take off.
Make a move. Didn't even break his legs.
Listen.
Agility, the ability to move.
Yeah.
We honored the ants because ants can carry 35 times their weight. Can you imagine if we could carry 35 times our weight?
You're talking about a couple cars, maybe a semi. You're talking about a lot of weight. A lot of weight.
Times. Even if you were 100 pounds.
Yeah.
3,500 pounds.
Yeah.
Which is a little over, well, not a little over, it's a whole bunch over a ton, because a ton is 2,000 pounds.
Yeah. You carrying some stuff.
That's what an ant can do. And not only that, but the ant can communicate with them, with each other. You know, have you ever like poured water on ants that are all moving in a certain direction, and everybody moves out the way of the water at the same time?
Yeah.
The art of communication.
Yeah.
The
just talking about that. Yes.
Echolocution. They say they're blind, but they give off radar. And that radar comes back to them wherever the building, and they can move around and not bump into the building. Do you know what that's like metaphorically? That you can give off radar, you can give off vibration, and you may be heading towards a very serious, dangerous situation, but you know how to move away.
Yeah. Look, that's that intuition. That's that Ashe. That's that melanin.
That's Ileana. That is the gift that was given to those animals that represents the greatness of the creator of all. Yes,
sir. I'm glad you said that, because we had a question from earlier. Shout out to Shakita. We appreciate you tuning in. And yeah, Shakita said, is the concept of Ka or Ileana also referred to as Oshalongo, which is attributed to the Iyami, who are severely misrepresented. So with that, Professor Kaba, the Iyami is going to be representation of like the feminine energy. I would say like the female natures per se, right? So she's asking, is the Ka representative symbolically or metaphorically in the same regard as Ileana?
Whatever Iyami can do, it is energized by the Ka or Ileana. Whatever it is. Now, if she, Iyami, is a feminine principle, in Kush Kemet, she would be called Nebetet. Nebehetet. Nebhetet. Nebetet is the oracle reader. Nebetet is the one that, and let me recommend to Chachita, if I'm pronouncing your name right, sister, and to anyone else that may be listening, get a book that's titled The Sibyls. Sybils. Sibyls. And it talks about the role of the woman prophetess. Not prophet, prophetess. And the ability to have what's called, in other words, Iyami in many ways reminds me of mother wit.
That's exactly what the Iyami. So the Iyami are the female representation of the Orishas. So it would be Imoja, it would be Oshun, it would be Oya. So pretty much the Iyami consists of like the female representation of the Orisha. But let's just take it and let's just kind of like metaphorically speak. They would be like the warrior class, sort of like the what is it? The old how do you say it? The Maje that was in Black Panther, the warrior class of the women that were in Black Panther. I can't remember the name. Ola Demaje? Demaje? How did you say that? I forgot how they said it. The ones that were from where were they from? I can't remember where they were supposed to be from in the movie, but they were the warrior class in the movie.
Absolutely.
But the Iyami,
Well, let me take you to another step as it relates to the woman king.
Right. Yep.
Let me take you to Dahomey.
Dahomey, that's it. The Dahomean warriors.
Oh, Dahomey, yes,
where they got
absolutely.
that. Yeah, that's where they got that concept from.
And we still got them amongst us.
Oh yeah.
I bet you Chachita is.
We probably got a couple on. I see a few names. I wouldn't be surprised.
Listen. It is the feminine energy, and it is guided by the science of magnetism.
Mm-hmm.
See, the male energy is electricity. The female energy is magnetism.
Yeah. Shango and Oya.
And it's just very important to understand, as Chachita is saying now, everything was once attached to the mother of mankind to start with. But in reality, where did everything come from?
The mother.
It came from mother. And I'm a brother. I'm a man. I'm proud to be a man. I'm proud to be a brother. I know what I contribute, because without one, there would be no other. It's just simple like that. Electricity, electrical currents create magnetic fields, and magnetic fields creates electrical currents. Without one, you wouldn't have the other. Without electricity, you would have not magnetism. Without magnetism, you would not have electricity. It is ma'at. It is the balance. It is what brings everything forward in its greatness. And so it becomes important that as we move forward, like I told folk when I did 1804, the hidden history of the Haitian Revolution, I said it, that if you think you having a revolution and women are not prominently involved on an equal footing with the men, that ain't a revolution. That ain't nothing but a street fist fight. To have a revolution, the women must be involved. I'll tell you this also. I tell you, I spent my time in schools. I've taught early childhood, elementary, middle school, high school. Let me take you back to my middle school days, when puberty is kicking in. If there were two fights in playground after lunch, and one fight was between two girls and one fight was between two boys, if somebody said to me, hey man, we got to break these fights up, which one do you want to break up? I break out the brothers. Because sisters fight in a way that brothers don't fight. Okay, sisters got that mother instinct even before they become mothers. They got that mother instinct. Sisters fight with every part of their body. Brothers be trying to duke it out. Sisters, when they take that Vaseline out, take their earrings off and their rings off and their bracelets off, you better back up. Sisters are something else, man.
Yes, sir.
And so it becomes important to understand that the sisters have been warriors for a very long time. This is why when I hear people talk about women's role in war, you don't know nothing about war if you're going to talk that nonsense. You don't know anything about war if you don't understand the power of the sisters in war. And so as we move forward, the Sibyls talks about this, and I'm sure that you'd be very interested in studying the role of women and the downfall of African society when sisters were taken off their throne. When women were looked at as less than men. When they were not looked upon as being strong. To be a woman, even as a young woman, and go through a monthly cycle, you have to have an emotional stability that we as men don't have. A young lady, a woman going through her cycle each month, they have to plan their whole life around that cycle. There are certain things they can't wear. There are certain places they can't go. There are certain things that they don't want to participate in. And it all is guided by that particular cycle. And that cycle is what matures women. This is why young girls, many times in school, are more mature than the boys.
Oh, yeah. I saw that growing up. From middle school, from elementary school all the way through middle school.
Yeah, I say, okay, everybody, Time to go to lunch. Let's line up. Okay. All of a sudden, all the girls are in line. They know exactly where to stand. I say, oh, hey, Kwame, come on, man. Come over here. Bobby, stop. Come on, man. Leave that alone, Bobby.
Look, Bobby probably try over there trying to holler at Paula. Paula, hey, run him high, snip him high.
Yeah. And we make fun, and brothers eventually mature, and many become phenomenal human beings and wonderful partners to the women.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just what you got to go through in life that shapes you, inspires you to be who you are. I ain't putting nobody down. I was once a young brother too. I know what I'm saying.
You and me both.
It's just, yeah. We know we know we experience this as young black men in this society.
Oh yeah.
And so that's just the way, that's just what we're looking at. The other thing I wanted to go back to your term in terms of Olodumare.
Mm-hmm.
If I did say it, let me correct what I said, because it was the prefix of Olu that I was talking about that led to Olympics.
And that's how you brought it up too. So
okay, because you have a lot of words in Yoruba that start with OL and OLU, OLA, OLI. It's the prefix of OL that would lead to Olympics, and meaning the mountain. Because when you get deep inside the Yoruba language, you can see the different variations on that word.
Oh yeah.
And of course, the Olympics came from Africans that were practicing war, and then they began to have their children practice with them and compete against each other to become better sportsmen and sportswomen. And that is why when you look at the Olympics, it's all like warfare. You got the javelin, you got the high jump, you got the racing, you got the shot put, the discus, the gymnastics, the boxing, the wrestling. Those are all military science. Those are all military sports. They've added others, such as hip hop, breakdancing.
I saw some foolishness, man. I was like, oh,
brother.
Man. I saw.
That's why we must celebrate ourselves.
Yes.
Have no fear for atomic energy, because none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book. Bob Marley, Redemption Song.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As we're moving through this process right now, family, don't worry about this. We got this. In fact, we could set up workshops to teach them how to get through this.
Yeah.
We know how to get through this. Our grandma knew how to take 5 fish and 3 loaves and feed the whole community. Talk about Jesus. Our grandmothers were Jesus.
Big facts.
Knew how to take a couple of vegetables and make stew for everybody in the house.
Yes, sir.
We knew how to take the very worst of everything and make it a delicacy. We call it soul food. And that happens throughout the Caribbean. All the black folk throughout the Caribbean. You speak Spanish, French, Dutch, Portuguese. They gave us garbage. Created this. And, I'm glad you said that, Chachita, because I see that on my DVR all the time about Hercules, the movie. I never tuned into the Disney movie on Hercules. Next time that I see that and they show it frequently, next time I'm definitely going to check it. Check the Sibyls, but the idea is that it's SIB. Is it? Well, let me not say. Just Google it and you'll see yourself.
Yeah, I wrote it down as SYBILS.
Yeah, man. That could be very true. And even if you look up the definition.
Yeah, it'll come up. We'll Google it. It'll come up.
Yes, my bad. Thank you, Chachita. Yeah, it's Sybills.
Okay.
Sybil. And
Yeah.
they are the warrior class.
Oh yeah. Well,
Okay.
that's the thing though, Professor Kaba. Like I know you know, and you've been teaching about how prominent the feminine energy and the mothers are to everything in creation, from the cosmic
Oh,
womb of the universe to the planet Earth to, you know what I'm saying, all aspects of life. Like I've always, anybody who's a supporter of this channel, who's been watching this channel, we always show the utmost love and respect and gratitude to the women, to the
yeah,
mothers, to the creator, to because even with E5, let's just go into E5. When we're talking about E5 at its highest level, right, in the Oracle, we're talking about the Babalawo, but the Babalawo is not interpreting any messages that doesn't come from the Odu. The Odu is the feminine principle of E5. So therefore, no matter what, you still have to have that, like you said earlier, the balance of the feminine and the masculine, that as above, so below, as within, so without. Like you have to have the balance of nature.
that's right.
Period. If you don't have that, what is creation?
That's right.
So it's
And
the ebbs
and
and flows.
absolutely. And the men always referred to the sisters who were the oracle readers. Okay. And
Yeah.
again, here Star Wars speaks of the Sibyls. When you read that book by that sister, you can understand when women were removed from the throne of authority, that's when Indo Europeans came in and defeated us. So the answer becomes for us to come together again as males and females. That's why they're doing everything they can to separate us in every way they can. Because they know ain't nothing more powerful than black love. That African spiritual, that African Holy Ghost. Nothing like it in the world. So it becomes important that we understand when we're looking for answers. And again, like I say, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying that we each have very unique gifts that we bring to the table. You know, the cats don't argue with the dogs. The cat do what it do, and the dog do what it do. The bird does what it does. You can even say the fingers. The fingers don't argue with the feet. The feet don't argue with the liver. The liver don't argue with the heart. The heart don't argue with the brain. But together, they make things function.
Mm.
Nobody's more important than the other. Each has his and her own place in the cosmos. Each is given a gift specifically for that individual to give to the world. We're living in a society where you have a gift in one area, but in order for you to put food on the table and pay your rent, you become a FedEx delivery person. Now, ain't nothing wrong with that. Because there's some packages I'm waiting on right now. I hope that FedEx come here soon. I honor the role, I honor the job. But what I'm saying is that if that's not what you want to do in life, you'll never find your purpose. There are some people that only want to be delivery. They say, this is my life. This is what I want to do. And they do it well. They should be FedEx.
Mm.
But if somebody else wants to be a baker, but they got to be something else because there's no job in baking, then they're going to miss their call. So I'm not even saying that you got to have this highfalutin situation in life. I'm just saying find your gift and become good at it. Because I tell you, there's some folk that be baking bread that I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? That's their calling. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But we're living in a world that don't do that. Like I'm pushing folk to teach the children solar power. Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. And our ancestors at one time had adapted a society around solar power. The pyramids or the Meru are an example of it. They knew solar power. That's why they call themselves children of the sun.
That's deep.
Solar power. Because we're going to get up off this fossil fuel. These people can talk about a drill, baby drill, all they want to.
Right.
But you see, it's snowing in places it never snowed before.
Yes.
Fires are, and remember the Bible now. The Bible come from Africa. My book, Shabaka Stone, is where the Bible came from. And I explain exactly how everything was put into place by our Kush Kemetic ancestors as it related to the Old and the New Testament. The whole Abrahamic religion is based on the Memphite theology, which was rewritten on Shabaka Stone. Just the way science is, family.
Yeah. Would you say, Professor Kaba, is just science, it's not personal?
It's not personal. It's science.
Just science.
And you know, the other thing about all of this is that you have a proverb. In fact, James Baldwin wrote a book. That's a scientific concept. You have ice age. Okay, you have an ice age, and when the ice age melted, it became water. When it became water, there were floods. And then Noah is a derivative of the word nun, which means water. But then at the end of the flood, God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water. It's the fire next time. What's going on in California? Fires are breaking out all over. My thoughts, my prayers, my hopes for a better way are sent to the people of California, Los Angeles in particular. It's sent to the south where it's snowing down there. But the fact of the matter is, family, it's the fire next time. Because after the ice age comes the warming age. And that's where we are. We are moving into the age of Hapi, or what's called the age of Aquarius, that brings water. And we're going to have to understand, because when I studied with Dr. Van Sertova in Mexico, a lot of the people spoke about the fact that many of the Europeans, such as Montezuma and others, were surprised when they went to different communities where it seemed as if the indigenous people had just gotten up and left. There's talk that they were warned, Europeans were warned, do not live in New Orleans. It's a bowl. And when Uricao comes around, it's like dumping water into a bowl. And while you're at it, don't build 10 miles east or west of the Mississippi, or what they call the Mississippi River, because it floods periodically. But what did they do? They built houses. So that they were wise enough to move when they knew that what was going on the earth was going to make something impactful. So there are certain places people didn't live because they knew. Native Americans had been around long enough to know, when that Uricao comes around off the coast of West Africa, that thing comes up, and according to where it leans is going to determine, is it going to go up the East Coast, or is it going to go around into the Gulf of Mexico, into Louisiana, and then ride the Mississippi River, because Uricao or hurricane gets its strength in water. And now, as the waters are getting warmer, because of global warming, the hurricanes are more powerful because they have time when they're on the water crossing the Atlantic to gain speed and strength. Land slows them up. But the fact of the matter is that if it is that hot, that water is real hot and stays hot for a long time, family, you better stay away from certain places. And forget what's thrown off from the hurricane. Forget about the lightning. Forget about the thunder. Oh, my goodness. Forget about the tornadoes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Forget about the tsunamis.
Mm-hmm.
Them tsunamis are waterquakes.
Yeah. You're dealing with the principles of Emoja and Olokun, and then even with the storms, that's Oya and Shango. So it's like all the elements in nature are all embodied in everything that you're speaking on. And with that, I know I might be pushing it, but a couple more questions, Professor Kaba. I was talking about earlier. There was a video, and hopefully you remember it. But I watched this one years ago. But you were speaking about in this particular video the concept of how I think it was like maybe, I don't know, 4 to 6 different stages of education and how we were taught and how we were educated on the continent versus here. And one of the major aspects of what I remember about that video that stood out to me is the fact that you spoke about we're not supposed to be inside of buildings in regards to our natural habitat or our natural experience or environments in life. Like we're supposed to be taught outside in the sun, in the fields, in the grass, in the elements of nature, because I forgot how the whole concept of what it was you were speaking on, but I just remember nature was a major aspect of how we're supposed to be taught, or how we should teach our children in regards to being taught in buildings and structures where we don't have access to the sun and to the forces and the elements of nature. Do you remember that? Do you remember that video or what
Yes,
that was
yes.
about?
Basically, what I was saying is that when you go into certain African communities that are traditional,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing people do indoors is sleep.
That's it.
Everything else is done outdoors. And the reason why you go indoors is to keep away the wild animals, keep them jackals from your door, or lions, tigers, whatever may be there. Keep them out your house. So you lock yourself in just to sleep, because when you sleep and you put your head on the thing, you go into the netherworld, and it's at that time that you sleep. But then when you get up, you know that you could battle those forces that would take advantage of you if you were asleep. And this is why everybody talking this thing about woke culture. I like that they say that. Because, family, let me tell you something. I just asked them a simple question. I say, you up here doing all this talk about woke, but what does it mean? What does woke mean? It means you not sleep. And when you're not sleep, people like you can't do your devilment. So you want to make being woke a bad thing so that people will stay in what Bob Marley calls a sleepless slumber. You want us to be the walking dead. But we woke. We are woke. And woke means you're not asleep. Think about this.
Yeah.
This is a powerful thing. They're right in our face telling us, you're doing exactly what we're afraid of. All this woke culture. Oh, yeah, it's woke. We woke. We've been asleep too long. Get up. Stand up for your rights.
I know
and that's what you do when you're woke.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
that's deep. That's real deep. And shout out to I think a few different tribe members got the book, Baba, because they was asking about the Shabaka stone. So Shabaka stone was the name of that one, but he also has Spirituality Before Religions, honoring William Hansborough, Hansberry, I'm sorry, and then also what's the other? You got like 3 or 4 more, Professor Kaba. You got the
Well, the book that follows that is Carbon Before Melanin.
That's the one. I got to get that one. That's the only one I don't have in your collection.
See, these are sequences. William Leo Hansberry was the brother that formed the first African Studies program at Howard in 1923.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's him. William Leo Hansberry, uncle to Lorraine Hansberry. His brother Carl was Lorraine Hansberry's father. So I did an intellectual libation, because whenever you set out to do something, you always pay homage to those that came before you.
Sure.
Now, Shabaka stone was the book I wanted to write. Shabaka stone is where you get the Old and New Testament. And family, look, let me tell you, they reverse the story. See, you read the 5 books of Moses, as I did several times. And what you realize is that that is presented to precede the New Testament, which is the story of Christ. But in reality, what we call today Judaism, the faith system or the religion Judaism, was started by an African by the name of Akhenaten of the 18th dynasty, when he changed the formation of the spiritual system from the Amen priesthood to the Aten priesthood, and created one symbol for the creator, which was the sun. The 10 commandments were taken from the 42 affirmations of Ma'at. And it came after a much older religion or spiritual system that was known as the Amen priest and priestesshood. Amen came first. So in reality, to confuse people, the first came last and the last came first. That's what they said. What is the New Testament is older than the Old Testament. So what I do in the book is I turn it around for you to be able to understand this. But I said, before I drop this on the family, this book here, I go into DNA, I go into Gagut, God Almighty, Grand Unified Theory, into science, to understanding the DNA strand and how it relates to the cosmic universe. And I do it scientifically, family. I'm not into no Twilight Zone thing, nor am I attempting to talk in a way that seems mysterious. I'm not into mysteriousness. Like Malcolm said, make it plain. But I was so impacted by this book. My mother gave me a Xerox copy of a book titled Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James in 1976. People she worked with gave her a copy. Said, I know your son would like this. Gave me a copy. So I read it, and pages 139 to 151 deals with the Memphite theology. And I was so impacted by what it was talking about as it relates to cosmology, because the subtitle is An African Theory on the Origin and Continuing Development of the Cosmic Universe. I was so taken by this. I said, I can't stop with this. So what I did is I wrote a book for children, Shabaka Stone for Children, to help them understand. I have 3 different graphic artists that I work with that put this book together. My son Heru was the one that put it into a book form. He did the graphics for the book, but I had somebody place. The first brother is called Artman, Michael Markman. What Michael did is that he did the graphics of the Neteru, or if you want to look at Orisha, but it's Kush Kemet. And then what I did was I had a sister named Kashe take his visuals and place it in the book. And then I had Heru Neset put it into book form. This is for children. And let me tell you something else. A lot of adults have told me they would have rather read this first and then this book, because this book really does break down an understanding of what it is. Okay. But now I'm really caught up, because now I got to take God from spirituality before religions that sets up an understanding of exactly what I'm trying to say. In Shabaka Stone, I realize I want to give people backup. So I go into all of the text and I analyze the text, the translations from my perspective of what the pyramid text is saying, what the coffin text is saying, what the book of the coming forth today is saying. What is Shabaka stone actually saying? And then Shabaka stone will open up for you. But then, which is the fourth book in the series, I had to write carbon before melanin. Because now the subtitle of this is Creators on Earth. Creator with a star, which is like an apostrophe, so it has a double meaning. Creator is on Earth is one translation of creators on Earth. It's what you have in terms of a contraction. But it's also plural, which means that creators on Earth, who are you and me. But what makes us who we are cosmic melanin brought down to Earth. But Dr. Sebi, who I was friends with since 1988, I invited him to a presentation I did in Brooklyn on melanin. He came. When I went back to the Herbal Institute a week later, he was there, and I said, Dr. Sebi, what do you think about my presentation on melanin? And he said, Booker T, you're always talking about melanin, but it was carbon before melanin. So I have a whole chapter on what carbon is. Science. It's not personal. We have to understand what melanin is, because that is the creator on Earth. That melanin, carbon, is that same concept, Iyami, and all other forces, Ptah, energy, spirit, Ka, Iliani, all of that, Iliana, all of that is part of that. You know, Dr. Naeem Akbar, when I'm looking at Saturn World, talk about reprogram yourself while you have the time. He has a book titled Know Thyself. And in that book, he talks about the fact that there are 3 steps that we have to take. And it's important that we understand this. We have to, you know, like in Star Wars, Yoda says, you must unlearn what you know in order to, you must unlearn in order to learn. Unlearn what you should not know and learn what you should know. And so we're dealing with, like when you say reprogram, I think of deprogram. Okay. You have to deprogram yourself. He uses the word deconstruct. Dr. Naeem Akbar. He uses the word deconstruct. Deconstruct. But after you deconstruct the untruth, you then reconstruct. But your deconstruction and your reconstruction mean nothing if you're not going to construct. You deconstruct the lie, you reconstruct the truth, but then you construct the truth in the rest of your life. It means nothing. You can have all the African information you want. You could have studied all the great scholars that you want. But if you don't formulate a plan in your life, and I'm telling you now, fam, we got to have a 100-year plan. And here's my question to us. Where do you want to see our people, specifically our children, in the year 2125? Where do you want to see them? What do you want to see them doing? Where do you see them in the scope of things? And after you create that visual, then start to actualize it. Because if you can visualize it, you can actualize it. If you can see it, you can be it. We must work with our children. I'm on a crusade to bring teachers into the system. Specifically black males, because we have so many sisters that are doing the job, but sisters need help. I know, because I was in the system. because I'm gonna tell you now, I started my career in New York as an early childhood teacher. I wanted to get them young. I taught kindergarten. I taught 5-year-olds. When preschool started, I started pre-kindergarten. I taught 3 and 4-year-olds. Okay, I used to sit on the floor in a suit. I used to sit on the floor cross-legged reading to the children. Okay, and I've told brothers that are in classrooms, you could stand in front of that class now, open your mouth, and you'd have an impact on every one of those children. Just them seeing a black man, you may be the only black man they see in their life. You know what's funny? In fact, people have commented on this because they never realized it. Before I had a car, I used to take the bus to work teaching, and I used to sit in the back of the bus and read. And I remember I saw that there were some high school students getting on the bus, and one of them tried to slide by without having the proper bus pass, and the bus driver called them back and kicked them off the bus. And by the time I was getting to my school, a lot of times the bus was pretty much empty. So I went up a couple of stops before I had to get off. I walked up and I sat where I could talk to the bus driver closer. And I said, sir, if you don't mind, I'd just like to talk to you for a little while. And I said, when I get off, you see that school over there? That's where I teach. And I said, I saw that young brother get on the bus and try to be slick with you, and you kicked him off the bus. And I said, I just want to tell you something about how important you are to the community. You may be the first black man the children come in contact with in their daily life. And I said, whether you realize it or not, you're having an impact on them just by being where you are. And I said, I saw that you threw the young brother off the bus. I understand. He tried to be slick. Yeah, okay, I understand. You ain't going to get over on me. But I said, what would be really powerful is if you spoke to that brother. Because he's going to school. And so it's not like he's not going somewhere that he needs to go. And if he gets off the bus, the next bus, what is he going to do there? He's going to try to be slick again. I said, you know that he's going to school. You can see him with his boys there. Some young sisters getting on the bus to go to school. And I said, you don't realize how important you are to them. And that if you could just extend an understanding, because he can get the right bus pass. All he got to do, he may have lost it. He might have forgotten it, but whatever, he could get on the bus and go where he got to go to school. So I said, I just wanted to tell you that to let you know the impact that you have in the community. Okay. I was on the bus and I looked out and I saw the brother that tried to be slick. And I saw the bus driver look in the rearview mirror, looking at me. And the young brother said, okay, this guy threw me off last time. No, and then the bus driver said, he stopped. He said, no, hey, young brother, come on up here, man. And, like the young brother got up on the bus, and he got on. He said, okay, go ahead, man. He said, no, sit right there. And that was the seat that I sat in that was so close to him. He said, no, man, I want you to sit right there. And so the young brother sat there, and the bus driver started a conversation with the young brother. What school he go to, how's he doing, everything that a daddy would do, the bus driver did. Now follow what I'm saying to understand the importance of we in the community with our children and what we present to them. Okay, eventually, again, he talked to him about the bus pass. He said, what, you don't have a bus pass or whatever it is? I didn't hear what was going on because I was in the back, but he was talking about the bus pass and things like that. He said, man, he said, if you just come to me and say, sir, I don't have my bus pass, but I'm on my way to school. Can I get on the bus? If you just be straight up with people, they won't think you're trying to get over. Long story short, when I was getting off the bus, I went a couple steps ahead because I wanted to congratulate the brother on his great, masterful way of talking to the children. He stopped me. He said, "Look, man, you don't understand what you did for me." He said, "I never thought of it like that. Every day I got to deal with these young people getting on this bus. They fighting, they screaming, they're doing this, doing this. And I never thought of the impact that I have, how I can take control of my bus with respect to them." And they wouldn't act like that. They would come on, "Hey, how you doing, Mr. Whatever, bus driver, whatever." I never thought of it. And the point I'm making is that we are so antagonistic to each other. Everybody trying to pour something out. I live on the top floor in my building. So I'm normally the first one that's going down because it comes up to me first and then I go down. I say to a person that got on the bus, I say, "Good morning." Okay. Next time I see people, because I do it all the time because it's very un-African to greet people. So next time I see the same person, I say, "Good morning." Good morning. Next time I see him, I say, "Good morning." They say, "Good morning." The next time I see him, they say first to me, "Good morning." And I say, "Good morning." After that, we started getting into conversations about what we're going to do during our. The point that I'm making is that those that know, some of us have to be stronger. Some of us have to be strong enough to understand that our people, black people, in this country and in parts of the world, the way in which black folk are treated, we hurt badly. Okay? Hurt hearts. Hurt hearts. But if you don't take it personal, with that guy say, "Oh, I'm all." The first time I could have said, "Well, okay, you don't want to talk to me? Okay, mother, whatever." But because I saw pain, because I feel pain by matter of degree, somebody has to be strong enough to extend themselves. My mama used to always say, no matter how cold the iceberg is, it can melt at the right temperature. You just got to be the right temperature. So I melted that iceberg just by continuing to greet in a positive manner. And eventually, we got into conversations going downstairs on our way to work. Somebody has to be strong. Now, I'm not saying to put yourself in harm's way now, because sometimes you can put yourself in harm's way by trying to be kind. I understand that. I'm not trying to push us into something that gets us in trouble. What I'm really pushing us into is to understand we hurt badly by matter of degree. And some of us have to be strong enough to be able to overcome that and still greet our brothers and sisters with a sense of respect. And this is the key. Another book I wrote for children is Thoughts from a Black Light. Now, this is really Heru Neset's doing. Broke it down real simple. Told a story, very simple story about thoughts from under a black light, which is a visual for children. It's a workbook. But I also want to tell you some other things because I've been writing some books here because I'm not playing. Okay, we got some work that we got to do. And if I'm going to ask us to work, I better be working too. We put together Power to the Panthers, which is going to be converted into a classroom program for children, where we cite different scholars in the Black Panther Party. And we do quotes. And some of the quotes we analyze. Like, for instance, Assata Shakur said, "It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains." We analyze this in the classroom with children. What does she mean when she says that? Got a beautiful sister, look like a panther there. Okay. Then we have a brother on the other side here. This Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton says you can kill a revolutionary, but you can never kill the revolution. What did he mean by that? We talk to children about these concepts. And so we have various quotes that we do critical analysis with children in classrooms to talk about Elaine Brown, Huey Newton, Stokely Carmichael. Okay, we get all up in this. Angela Davis, Bobby Seale. Power to the Panthers. All power to the people, for we are the people with the power. And then we got a manual. See, we working, family. And this one is the Power to the Panthers manual, where we look at Neely Fuller's areas of support, where we need to do law, and we talk about law. We also list books where you can get other books on law, labor, entertainment. We're talking about this. And we teach this in the classroom too, because we have to teach our people, family. And I'm not looking for anybody to validate me except for the community. And when the community validates you, you got it going on. You see, people call me Dr. Kaba, but I never went to an accredited college for a doctorate degree, because I used to teach on the corner of 125th Street and African Square in Harlem.
I know that's right.
And my name was Booker T at the time. And so people used to come by, and there was a brother named Patah that he and I went to Kemet with Dr. Ben in 1987. He used to call me up. He said, yo, man, let me tell you something, man. I'm going to be on 125th Street outside the Teresa Hotel. This is where Malcolm had his offices years before. And he said, listen, I'm going to be out there, man. Can you come by, man? We'll do like a little conversation. And he used to show slides on 125th Street talking about Egypt and our trip, and he and I used to go back and forth with each other. Long story short, people used to say, well, who is that? And they say, well, that's Brother Patah. They say, but who is that other brother? He said, I don't know. His name is Dr. Booker T. Okay. And then when I corrected my name to Kaba, it became Dr. Kaba. But I've got 2 master's degrees, but I do not have a doctorate. Okay. So people call me Dr. Kaba. And they call me Dr. Kaba because I got my doctorate from UCLA, okay? The university on the corner of Lenox Avenue.
Listen, I love it, man.
I got my doctorate from my people, and that means more to me than any accredited college. Not that I take away, from the rigor of the program or the vigor of the students. I have respect. But when the people call you doctor, that's the highest honor I could receive.
Man, excuse me. Now that's dope, man. Because I promise you, the last time I had Professor Small, which was right after y'all both had the event together, and it was Brooklyn or Bronx, wherever it was at.
Brooklyn, Nicholas Bookstore.
Man, listen. So before that, I was supposed to have you on, and then I got whatever I had. My throat got messed up. I couldn't talk. So I was mad because I'm like, damn, threw off my, my schedule. I was supposed to have the Titans in here back to back. But then, as luck would have it, or I should say, as my aunt would have it, EY Pulley would have it, it still lined up because I had both of y'all back to back right after the event. But when I tell you, he said the exact same thing. He was like, I got degrees. He was like, but my degrees, yeah, those are cool, but that's not really what this is for. Like, mine's really come from getting it from the people, putting in the work in the community, doing what I do to empower, educate, and teach our people. Mm-hmm. And that was powerful, man, because I feel like everybody who watches this channel, they know what it is, and they know the type of content that we deliver, but they also know who's on here delivering it and where you're coming from. Excuse me. There was I can't remember if it was a brother or a sister, but one of them left a comment on one of the last 2 shows that I had you on here for. And they was just like, they were amazed by how much information you shared and like how much ground you covered and just the way you did it. And I remember responding back to them. I was saying, it's beautiful to see people still have humility in the world, considering like the way some people, they're going to charge you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 just to come talk to them for like 30 minutes. And rightfully so, depending on, where you're at and what you're doing and who you're doing it for, right? I'm not knocking the hustle, but to have somebody like you dropping the knowledge, the wisdom, the information the way you are, unapologetically, and you're not charging nobody or saying hit the cash app. And I ain't knocking people's hustle, because there's some people who do that, but whatever. But the fact of the matter is, like, to see you doing what you do, how you doing it, but doing it with purity, and like doing it with sincerity, and doing it just for us as a people. I feel like not only does it inspire myself, but it inspires so many other millions of people out there who are watching you, and studying from your work, including me, who learned so much from you that I wrote a few books based off of some of the information that I learned from you with Young Kings and
That's right.
the Star Seeds. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that was literally inspired by some of the teachings that you gave me in interviews just like this, where you didn't know who I was. You never heard of me before. But, as our paths would have it, we crossed paths, and now the rest is history. But it's just a beautiful thing, because I want to share that because of all the people who out there who have brain babies, who have mind babies, who have spirit babies or creativity babies that are brewing within them. Just like we were talking about the mothers and the cosmic mothers and Ma'at and the universe giving birth to things. We all have the Ashe. We all have that energy. We all have that ability to tap into that higher level of consciousness to create and bring forth this type of information. And people like you are laying the blueprint down. And so the rest of us got to pick it up and do something with it. And so I appreciate you for that.
Absolutely. No doubt about that, brother. And anybody that would like to connect, you can go to my website. And in my website, you can go to www.kabakamene.com. Okay. And you go to Gumroad, you put your email in, and you'll get a 6-day e-course and my study guide. On the first, when you sign up first, you get the first day of the e-course with my study guide, free. And that's the most important document that I have, is my study guide. Because Dr. Clarke said, you may not reach your destination in your life, but if you leave the proper roadmap, those that come behind you can pick it up and continue your journey. So my study guide is free, and it's purposely free because I want the community to have it. Because like I tell you, there are certain things in life that are priceless. Some of the most important thing I ever learned in my life, I learned just sitting with Dr. Clarke, listening to him and Dr. Ben talk. Dr. Ben called him Bubba. That was his name. Dr. Clarke, Dr. Ben called him Bubba. They were like friends. I remember one time I was on CCNY when I was getting my second master's. I was on campus, and James Smalls taught class, and he also was the director of the Student Activity Center. And one time I was going to class, and I think he might have been going someplace, maybe home or someplace else. And we just got together. We started talking. Pretty soon there was a whole group of students all around us, just listening. Just like I listened to Dr. Clarke and Dr. Ben, those students were listening to Professor James Smalls and myself. We talk on the street. James talks on the street. You can see, you can go and see James talking on the street with somebody, and then pretty soon other people will come along, and it'll be a whole congregation. That's what happened to me on 125th Street, or wherever I might have stopped where somebody wanted to talk. There are times Sonetta stopped me on 125th Street. I start talking. Pretty soon the police have to come because it's so crowded. Nobody can move. Okay. Oh, yeah, Chachita, Spanish Harlem. Okay, I got you. I just passed there tonight. I passed through First Avenue, and some nights I go up Third Avenue. Pass right straight through. I know it. Yeah, that is good. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, that's good. Family.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. You see, my thing is, for me, this is like a meeting under the baobab tree. To me, this is a meeting at African Square. And the reason why I say that is because where I used to speak on the corner with Brother Patah was called African Square. The same place where Nelson Mandela, when he came to New York and he spoke, that's where I was standing. Wow. Except he was in the street. They built a stage for him. But I was on the corner. Teresa Hotel was where Malcolm had his offices on the second floor. And so I spent my life teaching on the street. And so to have this type of interaction, brother, like you showed the book Star Seeds. I remember when we were there, we sat in the hotel for I don't know how long, just chopping it up over star seeds. And about how that
Hours,
can
man.
be brought into the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, how that
Hours.
could be used as a curriculum.
Yeah.
See, we have to
Yeah.
understand that money has its place, and I just thank the community for all the support that they've given me in terms of getting my books. You know, you can order my books from my website, or you can order it from my Instagram page. The link in my Instagram page. But if you live outside of the United States, I always recommend that you go to Amazon. I understand Amazon. I understand the whole thing, but you know something? Ain't nobody going to use me if I can't use them. And when you are outside the United States, for me to send you the book, the postage costs more than the book. So the book would be much less expensive if you ordered it from Amazon, if you're in the UK or the Netherlands or Germany or South Africa or places like that. So I thank the community for their support and what they've done. You help the work that I'm doing, my work will continue what it is that we're doing as a people. They say money is the root of all evil, but guess what, fam? It's also the root to our emancipation and liberation. Supporting brother Obemi financially, it makes a difference. It makes a difference, and we have to understand this as we move forward. We have to support each other. We have to support our street vendors. We have to support the small black businesses that we have in our community. And if you want to start, I started a thing in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, where I said, if you want to really make a difference, because people like to march now, black folk like to march. I say march to the nearest black-owned store and buy something. Put $20 in your pocket and march to that store and put your money in that store. And then the next month, put $20 in your pocket, go to a different store. Maybe you go to a street vendor in the street. Get you some shea butter. Get whatever it is that they're selling. But do you know, if you had 40 to 50 students with $20 in their pocket, and they went into a black-owned business and spent $20, 50 students spent $20. Many times, that makes their day. Your $20 with 50 people makes a difference, family. We can start doing that. That's something real. We can do that. Maybe not 50 people. Maybe you can bring together 20 people. You can go to a restaurant, black-owned restaurant. Okay? Don't always have to go to Crack Donald or Murder King, Haunted Castle, Sunken Donuts. You can go to a black-owned restaurant. Whatever form of food you like to eat. These are things that we can do, family. And if I can just leave you with one thing, I want to tell you something that I think is the most important thing that you have. And everybody has it the same amount. The most precious thing you have is your time. And for you to be here with us, I appreciate your time. You can have all the money in the world, you can lose it, you can make more money. You can have all the houses in the world, they all burn down. You can build another house. But there will never be another January 21st, 2025 again. That's why we say we spent time. We pay attention. Because your time is a commodity. And the fact that you would spend this time here with us, I want you to know I appreciate you and I respect you and I love you for paying attention and spending your time with us today. So just keep on keeping on, family. It ain't over till we win.
No, sir.
Solar power is the future wealth of the planet. Teach the children.
Hmm.
And no matter how you look at it, family, Don't be trying to take power back from nobody. Ain't nobody got your power. You have the power. They don't have the power. We always say, I'm going to take my power back. No, you ain't going to. Look at what they did with that power in the first place. I don't want that. They done messed that up.
Yeah. And it got polluted, diluted, and all kind of tainted up.
That's it. You got the power. They don't have your power. They got your mind. But once you understand who you are as a people and what you can accomplish, the sky is not the limit, family. All power to the people.
Yes, sir. I should. Nah, I appreciate that, Professor Kaba, and I appreciate you extending the extra time, man. It seemed like it's like once we get going, the tribe come in, trickle in, and as we get going, they pile in, man. So shout out to the family. This is the second time I think in a row we did it. Almost 1:00 in the morning, and we got like 50-something people still here. And shout out to Professor Baina Bello, man, another 1804 star, the 1804 documentary with her children's book, The Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution. This is another powerful piece of work highlighting our heroes and sheroes, and Professor Bello did a phenomenal job with highlighting the sheroes of the Haitian Revolution, as well as shout out to Professor Smalls. He has his event coming up February 16th in Jacksonville. I got the links to the event on the channel, family, so shout out to that. We'll definitely be promoting that more, and having Professor Smalls share a little bit more about what he's going to be sharing with the people here in Jacksonville, Florida, February 16th, 2025. And shout out to you again, Professor Kaba. I appreciate you, man, for taking the time, to join us and chop it up. And it's amazing how things unfold and how they kind of come and fall into place in regards to the opportunities. Shout out to Baba Yasir Ra Hotep. He does international tours to Kemet, to Ghana, to Brazil, to Jamaica, Ethiopia. He's doing his thing. So we're working on doing some things together. So Professor Kaba, I'll definitely be reaching out to you in regards to hopefully maybe we could put something together on that level as well, man, because there's a lot of things that's falling into divine alignment that I see coming. And shout out to Brother Umar from St. Kofa 360 720 Study Group for putting together the event that brought you down here, I think like a year or two ago to Jacksonville, as well as bringing Professor Smalls here, next month as well. So shout out to everybody who's doing things in the community and showing love and empowering and enlightening our people. And that's what we're here for. So I appreciate it. And do you have anything you want to share with the good folks in these Isese streets before we check out, Professor Kaba?
Well, brother, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. To give this opportunity for me to be able to come and speak to the family. Because if it weren't for you, I'd be talking to a couple people. Or I might be talking to myself. But to have this StreamYard and to have someone like yourself dedicate your time, you see, I am because you are because I am, and together we can make this happen. And I just like to wind this down and tell you a story about Muhammad Ali, who was known to be verbose. He liked to talk.
Oh, yeah.
And he was asked to do a commencement speech at a college. And they said, but we don't have too much time. But we really want you to come. And Muhammad Ali said, you know something? I'm going to construct the shortest commencement address that has ever existed. And the day of the commencement address, he went up to the podium and he looked out to the group and he said, you, me, we. And he sat down.
That's powerful. Yeah, that's very powerful. Especially considering how much we know he talked. So that's powerful.
Yeah.
It reminds me of United We Stand, Divided We Fall. I am because we are, I am.
That's it. Ubuntu. Bottom line. And I also want to tell us we're going to make it to the promised land. I want us to understand no matter what you see happening out here, the stars are crossing now. And divine intervention has said that no matter what you see out there, keep your eye. I'm not saying take your eye off that, but keep your eye on where you got to go. and tell the children it's going to be all right, because you don't. Our children are perceiving things very differently than the way we as adults are perceiving. Talk to them. Ask them how they're feeling, and let them know we as a people will get to the promised land. Okay, it's been much worse for us, but we were able, through the guidance of the Creator and the ancestors, we were able to do what was necessary to get us to this point right now. And we're going to keep on doing what we got to do in order to get there. Tell the children it's going to be all right. We just got some work we got to do. We got some difficult days ahead. We just celebrated Dr. King, the last 1 minute and 19 seconds of his speech at the Masonic Lodge, April 3rd. Okay. It's powerful.
Yes,
if
sir.
our ancestors didn't give up when they were going through what we don't have any right. If I even dream that I'm having it difficult, I wake up and apologize for even having a dream. Our ancestors did some things. When you study our history, what they did is so phenomenal. It has to be spiritual. It had to have been the African Holy Ghost.
Yes, sir.
What they did, wow, we got it made compared to what they went through. And yet they manifested us. When they looked at their future, when they said, I believe I can fly, when they said the days are going to get better, they manifested us into existence. Now, my question is, who are we manifesting? Okay, where do we see us in 100 years? Manifest that visualization, actualize it. And like that study guide that I created, I may not get where I want to get in my journey, but my study guide, when someone picks it up, they'll know where I was headed, and they'll keep the journey going. So family, thank you. I respect you and I honor you, and I look forward to the future. It ain't over till we.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Professor Kaba. Shout out to Mike Jones. I think he had grabbed a couple of the books from you. Shout out to everybody for just showing up, first and foremost, but also for those who supported by buying Professor Kaba's books and investing in, supporting our leaders and our teachers, man, because that was something that I was talking about to another brother recently. Is like, I feel like we can do a lot better with supporting those who really pour into us the way you do, all the other masters who do the same work that you do, who have been doing it for decades on end. Like, I feel like we, as a community, as a culture, we owe it to y'all to pay it forward. So I appreciate everybody who came through tonight, who showed love just for showing up, but also who supported Professor Kaba and, the channel for showing love and investing in and supporting us, because it takes, financial stability in order to do this work. But we're here for us, and we're here now. So we're here to do this work, and we're going to get it done by any means necessary. And to quote the legendary Professor Kaba, it ain't over till we win, family. So we're here to do the work. We just need y'all to work with us, and we're going to make it do what it do. Yes, sir. That's what's up. Appreciate you, Professor Kaba. So, yeah, family, with that, please like, share, subscribe. Y'all don't forget to visit Professor Kaba Kamene's website, kabakamene.com. Also, the Kaba Kamene Gumroad, as well as I'll post your Instagram link in the comments as well, Professor Kaba, so y'all can connect with him on social media as well. And yeah, I look forward to doing it again. Doing it again, Professor Kaba. It was another phenomenal episode, as I knew it would be. And it's something else too, real quick on the way out, that I'm working on. I would love to get some insight from you, but I'm working on a new playlist, like for the master teachers who I feel like my generation and the people like younger than me probably never heard of. So your Dr. Clarks, your Dr. Benz, your Ivan Van Sertima's, your John Jacksons, the Chancellor Williams, all the legendary teachers who have phenomenal work. But I feel like there's a lot more light that should be shined on their work and who they produce, as people like yourself who have been students of some of these great elders who may be in the ancestral realm, but their work still lives today. So with that, I'm working on putting that together. And I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the time and you stopping through with the tribe. I appreciate all of y'all. Thank y'all for another late night, supporting on the Ashe live stream, man. We appreciate you all for sure. And with that, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next episode. We out, family. Peace. Ashe, Odabo.
ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo sí ẹni gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ forsake not your ancestors and praise your. ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàgbọ́ tẹ́ǹtì ẹni takísà ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo sí ẹni gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ forsake not your ancestors and praise your.